Companies like Microsoft, Meta, Google, Amazon, and xAI are all building AI data centers of their own at sites across the US and beyond. Each company wants to have the most capable AI being used by the most people, and they've committed tens of billions of dollars to make it happen.
There's no reason we won't scale up our computing 100,000 times in a few years.
I'm good for my 80 billion. I'm going to spend $80 billion building out Azure.
The downside of being behind is that you're out of position for the most important technology for the next 10 to 15 years.
But beyond just making better AI, many tech leaders want to be the first to create AGI, artificial general intelligence, a super smart agent that can think and learn just like a human, if not better. Large language models like ChatGPT have gotten more capable as the technology's evolved, so the hope is that adding an astronomical amount of compute will make them even more capable.
So that gives you a quite good idea of where we're at with the Mag 7 tech companies in the US and the state of AI. That was an expert from one of Bloomberg's recent videos where they interviewed Sam Altman. Highly recommend it, and I'll add it to the description below for the full video. But it gives you the idea that there are tens, if not hundreds of billions of dollars going into AI infrastructure, going into developing these tools. So today, I want to go through who is going to win, who might win in this AI race. I don't think many people are talking about the different competencies, different unique competitive advantages that each of these companies have. So that's what I want to go through today with a quick overview of where people are focusing their investments and what the technology could be doing in just a couple of years' time. So just to talk you through some of the different companies that we're going to look at today. So I couldn't fit all of them on this slide, but I think everyone's heard of ChatGPT right now. That's OpenAI, Sam Altman in the top left. They have a partnership with Microsoft, which also you can see Satya in that clip from before. He's good for his 80 billion. Then Amazon is also partnering with Anthropic, which is one of the biggest AI labs as well. So they're behind Claude, which just released a new model, Claude 4, recently, just last week, or even this week. Then obviously, Elon's one of the most famous people on the planet right now, so I'm sure everyone's heard of him. And then Grok integrated within X, or Twitter, as it was formerly known. So it has quite good distribution there, and famously, he built out one of the largest AI clusters in record time very recently as well. Then there was entire DeepSeek moment, so we can't ignore China in this. While China is still lagging the US in AI, there's been a lot of geopolitics around this particular question in recent months. A lot of chip acts, chip laws, questions around should we be putting high tariffs? Should we be preventing Nvidia chips from going to China? Is that anti-competitive? Is that protectionist? Is that creating an incentive for China to develop their own state-of-the-art AI chips and hardware? It's a very interesting conversation. We weren't going to get into it completely today. The takeaway is we can't ignore China. Then obviously Google DeepMind with Gemini. This is one of the biggest companies in the world with massive data resources. They were the ones behind the paper for the original transformer technology that ChatGPT and OpenAI used to kind of get their first mover advantage. Google is really the one with the biggest innovator's dilemma at the moment. ChatGPT, LLMs are coming for search. Will Google be able to adapt? And that's going to be one of my topics in a future video, which is, I think, is super interesting. How will Google survive this transition? How will they navigate this threat to their core business and their cash cow? Then we also have obviously Facebook, Meta, with their billions of users of distribution across Instagram, Facebook, and WhatsApp. They also have their own open source effort on OpenAI, on LLMs as well. Then we also have the rest of the Mag 7. So you think about the Apples of the world, Nvidia, which is powering this entire thing. And then also Tesla, because they are working on the physical AI piece with humanoids and autonomous vehicles. So we really can't ignore the race that's going on in each of the Mag 7 companies plus OpenAI. So hopefully that gives you a quick overview. I'm kind of going to go through first. I love this meme because it really gives you a summary of why this is so competitive. This is the cycle, and it shows how competitive the models are. Every couple of weeks, a new model is released by a different company or a different AI lab, and they are continuously pushing the bar. They are continuously beating the previous release on benchmarks. They are frequently going again up against the frontier, and they are upping the bar each time, throwing more compute, more research, more parameters, and competing for users in different functionalities. So let's take a step back on what are the levels of AI and where are we going from here? Because we are all familiar with level one, chatbots, LLMs, ChatGPT. If not, I don't know where you've been living. OpenAI has almost maybe 1 billion users across the world. So maybe on that 7 billion who are not currently using it, but it is catching on like wildfire across both customer AI as well as inside our biggest companies in the world. They are also starting to have their own models being used by employees. But essentially, level one is that chatbot functionality, AI with conversational language. You can ask any question and it will give you a answer by using all of the data that it has from the internet or from different data sources that the company will be using. And it will use its very natural language processing to understand what you really are asking for and what you mean. So that was level one, which we had started off with ChatGPT in late, I think, November 2022, just 2.5 years ago. So that really tells you how quickly this has caught on. It's not been that long at all, and we have made rapid progress since then. Then there's level two. So this is maybe a bit more niche, and not everyone who uses ChatGPT will know of this functionality. But this is something that we have seen in the frontier models and also in some free models on some of the apps. So this is available within ChatGPT's free version. This is available within DeepSeek's free version. So same with Grok's free version, and I think to some extent Gemini as well. And what reasoners is that there are certain requests you can ask your LLM that are beyond the normal ChatGPT or normal search term. So you can have deep search or you can have deep think. These are normally embedded within the search request. And what happens is that the AI does a larger and more deep research before answering the question. It takes more time to think, and then it kind of self-prompts itself to figure out what the next question should be, the next layer of research should be. With deep search, it will search, maybe dozens to hundreds of pages, read all of them, kind of ask itself if it's answering the question you initially asked, and kind of having self-prompting. So we are kind of already there with the level 2 piece. There is still hallucinations, but I think with reasoners, we've gotten a lot more progress in terms of reducing those hallucinations, because within the self-prompting, it's challenging its assumptions, and it can actually catch many of those hallucinations and many of those errors within that kind of thought process. Imagine when you're speaking to someone in a conversation and someone asks you a question. You could respond straight away, or you could start thinking in your head, in your brain, with an internal monologue, and then thinking through and then responding. The second way is likely to result in a better answer, and that's really how I would summarize that level 2 stage of artificial intelligence. Now, level 3 is what people are currently working on right now. Agents, systems that can take actions. So level 1 and 2 have already started disrupting some employees and some jobs. So you can think of customer support, you can think of solving some language problems or solving some maths problems. So if you're asking it to help you with your homework, it can already start helping some of that. So maybe tutors are getting disrupted. Many support systems and teachers are being maybe disrupted with level 1 and level 2. And then you can also think about the creators with the image generation models. Those are also being disrupted to some extent. You think of Veo 2, Veo 3 now actually, which is the video generation models, Sora from OpenAI. All of these are still level 1 and level 2 pieces, and that itself can cause massive disruption in the next few years. We're just waiting for the adoption cycle and the S-curve to kind of catch on. But with level 3, this is where it comes into replacing those kind of white collar jobs. So many people with 9 to 5s who are are employees of companies, there are now agentic workflows being worked on. So if you ask for if your boss or a manager asks you for something, a report, or for you to do some research or things like that, maybe it's about you booking a holiday, and the AI can actually ask you your budget or where you want to go, and then it can actually book the holiday for you through, I don't know, booking.com, or the website directly, or through, I don't know, British Airways, the airline, and book tickets for you. So this is where it starts to encroach on that white collar piece and white collar job piece. And I think that's where a lot of disruption is going to happen. So you can think of AI is engaging with you over email, then taking actions within your job that you would normally have to do yourself, like an operational task. Then level 4 is innovators, which is, I think, still a little bit far away. That can aid in invention. So things like new discovery. And I think this is where we are actually getting to, that's the frontier piece. We have had one of the leaders of the AI lab from Google, so DeepMind. So this is Demis Hassabis, who's the head of DeepMind, which is behind Gemini, which is part of Google's effort. He won a Nobel Prize recently for some of the work they did around protein fold and AlphaFold. And this is kind of partially to do with that innovators piece. So this is actually where I think there's a lot of excitement. Can AIs help us with new science discoveries, putting together huge volumes of data that a human could never do themselves, and then find a novel connection, a novel idea, a novel new physics theorem or physics theory? Can they help with that? Right now, I think the Nobel Prize was because the AI could just sift through so much data in such a short amount of time that was able to just condense the work of many PhDs into a shorter time frame, and that's where we got some really big leaps in stride already. So just to make it clear, we don't even need to get to level 4 to have massive disruption already, which is why there's such a massive investment behind this, because even if these compute and scaling laws do not continue, level 1 to 3 is going to cause massive disruption, massive GDP growth, massive productivity boosting actions, and that has value. And then level 5 is really when you get to the kind of real AGI piece, where AI can work of organizations, and you're really having it, potentially running itself. This is when the AI is the CEO, and I think we're very far away from that. And I don't think it's something that we are at risk of the next decade at least, but I could be wrong with the stage of how quickly things are going. But cool, so that's kind of the language piece and the AI piece from a just how you engage with it from an intelligence perspective. But this also comes to physical AI. So when you're talking to a chatbot or an LLM on your phone, it now understands natural language. There are many models that have also got a voice mode, so you can talk to ChatGPT, you can talk to Grok, and it'll understand your words, and it will respond to you with voice. You can imagine that with a humanoid robot as well. So you can talk to it. The robot will have a microphone as part of its hardware. It will have a built-in neural net and a built-in LLM capability, and it can answer you just like ChatGPT can answer you now. And then they can take action. So that agentic function that we just talked about, they can then take actions based on what you've asked them. So there's a video the other day where there were many prompts being asked of Optimus, for example, and there was things like, pick up this trash bag, put it in the bin, or fold the laundry, or stir the pot when cooking, and it was able to do it. It was able to understand those commands, and it was able to do them in terms of the action. So that's where we really get into agentic systems and agentic workflows. And then you can also imagine, these being in the workforce, and this system replaces the blue collar piece as well. And then Cybercab is again quite agentic because it's systems that can take action. So it's not innovating potentially. You could argue that it has innovative solutions to go around traffic or something like that, but really it's agentic. It's taking inputs and is taking decisions on outputs around turning left, turning right, evading traffic, evading a crash or something like that if there's a vehicle coming on the side, things like that. So this is where it becomes into physical part of the world. And then obviously we are familiar with ChatGPT, and on the left is actually Meta AI's kind of personas thing. So you can imagine this is Mr. Beast, for example. You can imagine an LLM that ingests all of Mr. Beast's data, and then you talk to Mr. Beast's persona. In this case, it was called Zach, and then Zach or Mr. Beast will respond on chat as if it was Mr. Beast. So you can have a personal conversation with this persona because it's ingested all the information that Mr. Beast has ever done on YouTube, for example. And this one actually was a video piece, so maybe it's a video given the progress we're making with Veo 3 and chat text to video. Who knows? Maybe you can have just a normal conversation with Mr. Beast on like FaceTime when it's not actually him, but it's a generated version of him, and it's using all of the data from his YouTube channel to really have a conversation with him, even though it's not him. That's just one example of where we can go with these things. But then let's go back to the AI race and the Mag 7 and OpenAI and who's going to win. What's important when you think about this? And honestly, I can't answer this question at the moment in terms of who's going to win. But let's talk about who might be in the pole position, who might be having those advantages. So what matters in the AI race? So one, resources. Obviously, there's a reason we're talking about the Mag 7. They have massive amounts of cash on hand. They are massively profitable businesses. You think about Google with their search. You think about Meta with ads. You think about Apple with the amount of cash on hand that they have. Microsoft as well. These companies have massive amounts of cash. They can then invest that cash in compute, in infrastructure, in acquiring talent. And you can see that, and they can invest in energy. So a lot of these, a lot of infrastructure is actually going to be energy infrastructure because they need that energy to build those, to run those AI compute centers and really train the models. So this really dictates model quality, and this is where scaling laws come into play. The bigger your compute, bigger your data sets, bigger your training capacity, the better your model can be. This is why Elon and XAI have built their Colossus computer in Memphis, one of the fastest ever ramped data centers in the world. And this is why Sam Altman is asking for the Stargate project in collaboration with Oracle and I forget the name of the other firm investing it, $500 billion into the Stargate project. That's about data centers to power and train AI. The bigger the model, the better your quality of the model is likely to be. This means better answers. It means better understanding of the context. It means lower cost. So if you want to generate images and videos without any cost or very low cost, you need these massive data centers. And you could hear from one of Sam Altman's videos when the Ghibli trend came along and they were signing up millions of users an hour for this Ghibli trend. They were using a massive amount of their data center capacity in the GPUs to generate all of these images, and that had a massive cost associated with it. In a world where AI will become how we interact with the world in many different instances, asking questions, generating images, generating videos, generating all these different things, we need data centers and we need compute and we need infrastructure to be able to serve these requests. And for that, you need a massive amount of resources. So in the past, we've had disruptive companies that have kicked out the top 10 companies in the world out of the top 10 market cap companies. This time might be different. It may be that the incumbents are the ones that have the money to invest and the scale to be able to leverage infrastructure quickly. Then the second thing is data. So obviously, the better your data, the better your output with requests. If you asked ChatGPT a question and it had no data of the internet, it could not answer your question. If it doesn't have recent data, it also can't answer your question. For example, if you asked who is the president of the United States, and your data source ended in 2012, the answer would be Obama rather than Trump, right? So you need to have the right kind of data. So that's one aspect, and you can argue that internet data has been kind of commoditized. Every single model in AI lab has this because every single company can scrape that data, the majority of it. However, the Mag 7 have different competitive advantages in data as well. So you think about Google, they have massive amounts of search data, real time. They know what customers are searching for. They know some of the answers they are acquiring. They've got massive amounts of video data from YouTube. This really helps and gives them an advantage in video generation and image generation. So you can say that Veo 3, which is their Gemini's image gen model and video gen model, is much better than Sora, which is OpenAI's version. Why? Because they can leverage this massive amount of video data that they have through YouTube. And then you can argue that, for example, XAI has massive advantages because they've got massive real-time data. Twitter, X, this is where you go for the instantaneous thing that just happened, the football match or the crisis or the latest Trump tariff drama or whatever. It happens there first, and therefore they have the most real-time data available. So that gives them an advantage there. And then you can argue that, for example, Tesla has so many video cameras on all of their cars, 7 million cars in the world, and that gives them a lot of real-world data, and that helps them, again, in that video gen model. If they can, if they want to build a foundation model of the world, they can really leverage that real-world data to build in real physics, things like that. So data matters. The type of data also matters. So volume and diversity of data and what kind of vertical you're looking at. So is it text-based? Is it video data? Is it real-world data? Things like that. Then distribution is really, really big. How do you acquire customers? So you can argue, for example, Meta has billions of users across WhatsApp, Instagram, Facebook. So when they launch Meta AI, they can embed it natively into all of their apps. For example, if you go on WhatsApp right now, they have Meta AI there, and you will tend to use it because it's just easier to use that within the app, and then it will have maybe your data from all of your chats. You can search more easily, things like that. It's more available. Then you can say that, for example, if you're on X or you're on Twitter, for example, you have Grok natively in the app, and you can select Grok to summarize tweets or summarize posts as you go through the timeline and the feed. That means that people will use that model more, and it will help the model train even faster. So distribution matters that way. And then you can argue, for example, then ChatGPT, because they're that first mover advantage, they are the brand that everyone knows. Majority of users of LLMs will only know ChatGPT. Only people who are really into all of this, like me, will know about Claude and Anthropic, Google Gemini, and Veo 3, Sora 2, whatever, Grok with XAI, and all of these, and DeepSeek, the Chinese version, or from that firm as well. So most people will know OpenAI. They have a significant market share. I think around 70 to 80% of the market share right now. So distribution really matters. How quick can you acquire customers and train your models and get and show the quality of your model as well. And then finally, obviously with Google, you have distribution across YouTube, search, default within different things like Apple hardware with that deal. And you also have Google Suite, Gmail, Google Calendar, Android. So they've got massive distribution there as well. So that's an advantage. And then the last thing is, I think, on specific expertise, so core competencies. The example here is like Nvidia. Like they have a core competency on building these GPUs and the entire pipeline of building these data centers as well. So they really know how to drive down the cost and still have a massive profit margin, which is why they have almost essentially a monopoly on this massive infrastructure build out that all the Mag 7 companies are needing. They are the company you go to get GPUs and to build these data centers, which is really hard to replicate, right? They have a massive head start. They bet on this years before everyone else. Then you can think about manufacturing expertise. So you can say Tesla has great expertise in manufacturing, in terms of their manufactory supply chains, actuators, battery cells, raw materials. Even that relationship really helps, so that when they build out autonomous vehicles or humanoid robots, this is an advantage. You can argue, for example, same with Apple. They've got manufacturing expertise, design expertise, things like that. So this is also important to consider. Then obviously partnerships as well, experience of these different aspects. And I think my kind of point to summarize this slide is that there will likely be multiple winners, because there are different parts to the AI race, right? There's AI hardware, there's, so for example, the chips, the GPUs, the data centers. Then there are the customer LLMs like ChatGPT and Grok and Gemini, things like that. Then there's enterprise. Who will enterprise companies use within their organizations? Will they partner with ChatGPT and OpenAI? Will they build their own models using open source? Or will they use a different model? And then the final will be physical AI. Who's going to win on humanoids, autonomous vehicles, things like that, which is not the same as who will win on LLMs, because it's a different core competency, right? ChatGPT can't then turn around and build a robot when their expertise is really in the frontier model side. I mean, they could, but they just bought out Johnny Ive's company, but that's more for a different type of product. So now let's go through the different companies in the Mag 7, and this is a much longer video than I thought it was going to be, but I think it's interesting. So let's talk about them one by one. So I kind of broke this out, and this is from Grok actually, but I did validate it and go through a few iterations. But I think it lays it out kind of well to talk through some of these different companies. So Apple. So with Apple, they've been, I think, struggling with AI in general. They had a really good branding with Apple Intelligence, AI Apple Intelligence, and they advertised the iPhone 16 with, built for Apple Intelligence from the ground up. However, this hasn't been a massive success. A lot of Apple Intelligence features have been delayed significantly. And I think Apple still has issues with Siri, and it's not been something that they are really at the frontier of. I think from Apple's perspective, they are hoping to partner with one of these other frontier models so that they have a good native experience with AI, and they will have to build an AI first device to really continue competing in this space. And I think there's also already some evidence that some of the Android phones and hardware makers are taking some demand away from Apple, because they are able to really lead on the AI features. So Apple really needs to ensure that this is a core strategic priority for them, but we've not really seen too much from Apple to really put them in the lead from an AI perspective. There was recent news that Apple is working on a AI first device, so they're thinking of something like glasses, something like that. So AI glasses, something similar to what Google Glass used to be in the past. Things that Meta is working on as well. So Google and Meta are working on an AI powered glasses, which they believe is the native next hardware model or hardware platform from beyond the phone, where you have, for example, potentially a camera in your glasses that the AI can see what you see, and then it maybe has microphones and an audio functionality like the Ray-Bans you see with Meta right now, so that you can ask questions and your glasses can hear you and see what you see, and then it can respond via the speakers that you can hear in your ears. So a lot of companies are working on that. And then there's a piece where you might have in the glasses a display on the screen, like with Google Glass in the past, which can really have an augmented reality feature. So let's say you're walking through a park and you see an interesting flower and you want to ask what the flower type of flower is. You can ask, let's say in this example, it's Gemini if you're using Google's AI, and you say, "Hi Gemini, what kind of flower is this?" And it can say, "Okay, I see this is a dandelion or something, based on what I see in the image." And you can say, "Can you give me more information?" And then it has maybe a screen within the heads up display that can give you more information. Or and you can really go anywhere with that. So it's a really interesting path forward, and Apple has that customer loyalty and brand to really take advantage of it. So I think Apple in the AI sphere, there's not been significant investments that I've seen in terms of building out their own models or partnering with a big AI lab. I know they had a small partnership with OpenAI in terms of Apple Intelligence, but I don't think it's been a massive success, to be honest with you. And I think they will really have to come with a big device that is AI forward to really leverage that brand. Then moving on to Microsoft. So obviously Microsoft has a significant partnership with OpenAI. They have a controlling interest in the for-profit arm. And let's not get into OpenAI's corporate structure right now, which is very interesting, but maybe another day. And through their partnership with OpenAI, they are able to access the leading models. They have Azure cloud support that they can send to their cloud customers as well. But they're also working with multiple different AI labs. So a lot of the cloud companies want all the options available to their cloud customers so that they have complete choice. So all of Microsoft, Google, and Amazon from their cloud service business, they want to give their customers access to Grok, OpenAI, DeepSeek, Gemini, and really have all of the options available to them. But the advantage that Microsoft really has on distribution is that they have massive software advantages in Microsoft 365. So everyone uses Excel, Word, and PowerPoint, things like that. So if they can embed AI into that, things like, and also they have what's the word? It's Microsoft Copilot. There you go. So they also have Copilot. So they have a lot of enterprise embedded distribution, which really gives them a lead, I think, in the enterprise side of things in terms of this distribution. And their partnerships are very, very good. And they are investing a lot in energy from nuclear, SMRs, things like that. So I think Microsoft are really a big player in enterprise and given their partnerships in the space. So next up is Google, and I think Google is the most interesting story right now. So I will do a specific video on Google in particular, but they have, again, vast resources, just like the other big Mag 7 companies, and they are the original AI company. So they are the ones who wrote the paper on transformers that led to the development of this technology, and they have that big innovator's dilemma piece where if they go hard and build an AI first experience on search, it could really disrupt their profit generation business. So if you, for example, disrupt the blue link economy with AI searches, which are much more compute heavy, so that means that they are also more expensive per query, it could mean that they have lower ad revenue and a higher cost basis, which really impacts their profitability and their long-term cash flow opportunities. The advantages that they have are they have got massive infrastructure, so they have got TPUs that don't even need to rely as much on Nvidia's solution because they have their own data centers. They have massive amount of data in terms of search, YouTube, Google Cloud. Then you also have the G Suite, so you think about things like Google Sheets, you have Google Calendar, all of these different other solutions that people use across the world, Gmail. So a lot of users across all of these platforms, so they have massive distribution as well. They're the best, some of the best talent in the world as well, for AI and computer science, and they've also got hardware and software expertise from the Pixel and Google Home speakers, things like that. But they also have, of course, massive software advantages with Android and a lot of the cloud business as well. So I'll definitely do a specific one on Google, but I think they've got massive advantages with data distribution, resources, and innovation. Their problem really is on Nvidia's dilemma and how they will transition into that new model. So Amazon has, so let's move on to Amazon as well. So obviously, okay, before we move on to Amazon, just to mention that Google also has a big partnership with DeepMind. So they acquired DeepMind, I think, in 2014, which is one of the frontier AI labs. So they have got massive innovation and they've got massive advantages because they fully own that AI lab rather than having it as a partnership. So Microsoft partners with OpenAI, Amazon partners with Anthropic, but Google owns DeepMind outright. So I think that's a key distinction as well. And also they have invested in Apptronic, which is a humanoid robot company. So there are all of these other things to consider, and I'm not going to cover everything in this video, but it's still good to think about the overall space. Then Amazon with Anthropic. So again, Anthropic is behind Claude, which is one of the other frontier AI labs and models. So they invested with Anthropic, and that's their main partner. They have access to advanced models. They have AWS as a cloud business, large cloud provider. So they have that as a very key lever to leverage AI to boost that business. In terms of distribution, obviously they've got broad e-commerce experience, so they can really roll this out to the e-commerce website through, I don't know, customer search, things like that. And then I think in the AI race, it's difficult for them to boast an advantage over Google, really, in terms of that wide distribution. So I think they are investing correctly for what makes sense in their business, but potentially not to the level of Google, potentially on what the opportunity they could capture. So moving on to the rest of the Mag 7. So Nvidia is obviously the only real company that's started to make real money from AI. So a lot of these other companies are investing heavily in AI, but they're not yet getting the return on that investment straight away. Nvidia here is the exception. So they have insane revenue from GPU sales. It is their core business. They are the ones who are providing the picks and shovels for this AI gold rush. And they have a massive leadership in AI hardware and development. They don't seem to be losing their domination in GPUs for AI training, inference, and the demand for these are only going up, it seems. They are also working with a lot of partners. So they're working, they really want to be the foundation layer of AI and the provided for a lot of different technologies. So they are partnering with a lot of car manufacturers to help them with autonomous vehicles through Cosmos and Nvidia Drive. They have a lot of partnerships with humanoid robotics companies in the same way. They're building world foundation models to help train these AIs, both for physical AI systems and also the inference side of things. So they are indispensable in the AI ecosystem. And the question that really remains is, can other companies start to take that gross margin opportunity and start competing in this space? For example, Tesla is working on Dojo for their needs to reduce the reliance on Nvidia. I would say that Google is kind of somewhat protected with TPUs and their capability there. And I think other companies are really trying to build their own capabilities in this space, so they don't have to rely on Nvidia GPUs for every single data center that they build. So I think Nvidia is by far and away one of the biggest winners in AI, and I think that's not up for debate at the moment, but we can definitely look into the future potential for Nvidia if this is a one-time build out or if this is just the start of this AI demand that's going to continue for decades, given high utilization, higher productivity gains. If scaling laws hold and we can continue to build bigger and bigger data centers to get better and better results. And then Meta, I think, are really have an advantage with also, again, significant resources. Every Mag 7 company really has those resources. But they're working on Llama open source models, and they're also expanding the data centers. But their advantage really is their distribution. They have the most users that they can distribute to immediately through Instagram, WhatsApp, Facebook. They are likely to integrate Meta AI in a similar way that XAI has integrated into X. So they will have a really good feedback loop and real-time data, just like X does, and embed it in all of their different platforms. They have that good brand. They have an open source strategy. That also means that maybe they have a really good model. And I think the open source versus closed source debate is a really interesting topic for a future video too. And then Tesla, I think, is a really interesting case because, and I think this is overall the Muskonomy essentially. So Tesla is separate from XAI, which is one of the top AI labs in the world, again founded by Elon Musk. And there's currently been talks about Tesla merging with XAI potentially, but there is a very strong partnership likely to occur between Tesla and XAI, so I've kind of lumped them together. For example, there are talks about Grok being integrated, which is Grok is XAI's model, being integrated into Tesla cars in the next software update. And then there's talk about XAI's Grok being behind Optimus, things like that. So there are a lot of synergies that could come out of it. But Tesla on its own as well is has a massive advantage in physical AI. They have been investing in autonomous vehicles since 2016, and I think they are the indisputable leader in autonomous vehicles. And they also have all the vertical integration components for physical AI and humanoid robotics. They really kicked off this renaissance in humanoid robotics in 2021 with famously their person in a robot suit. But other companies like Figure AI really started after that announcement, after they had started working on it. And obviously there was company like Boston Dynamics in the past, but Tesla really started driving this forward really quickly. And their focus is on how can you build this in high volume and make it a scalable solution so that you have billions of humanoid robots in the next few decades. So from my perspective, Tesla's advantage is really in physical AI, autonomous vehicles, humanoids. They have the vertical integration, they've got the manufacturing capabilities, and this is where their distribution really comes in as well. XAI is then having expertise in where every other company I've mentioned, which is they've got a real-time data source in X. They have a massive GPU cluster and data center, one of the biggest in the world, which means they've got a frontier model. And they have all of that text-based information. So I think if you look at it from who has all of the building blocks, I think Tesla plus XAI really has every single advantage that a combined version of them could really be one of the winners, because they have both video data, the real world data collection from millions of Teslas around the world. That helps them build world models. They help them build. They have they've got massive expertise in data pipelines to train AIs, and they've got both Colossus and Cortex, which are two different AI clusters and data centers to train different parts of their AI strategy. So I think a combined Tesla with XAI is potentially one of the less spoken about competitors in this race. And then finally on OpenAI, which is not obviously part of Mag 7, but we can't ignore OpenAI in this conversation on who is going to win in AI. So obviously their competitive advantage here is that they have their first mover advantage. They have the brand name, strongest AI brand name in AI. Many normal users will not have heard of other AIs beyond OpenAI and ChatGPT. And because that it is the most used model in the world right now in the period of time when they are growing the fastest and AI is developing the in a rapid way. I think you're going to see a situation where when they add memory functionality and all of your data is within ChatGPT, it becomes a very it has very strong network effects. So it's very difficult for a customer to move to a different product if all of the data and all of their historical conversations are on one ChatGPT profile, and there's a high friction to moving. And I think that locks in customers, and I think that's why, from a customer LLM perspective, they are going to be one of the biggest winners, and it's hard to see that going away. And I think OpenAI's challenge really will be how do they make it a profitable business? How do they drive revenues in a world that potentially where LLMs become commoditized? If we have open source models that are really, really good, how do they navigate that world in which not many people are paying for the service? Because the majority of OpenAI's users, most of ChatGPT users, are using the free version, right? There are a few people, power users, who are doing ChatGPT Plus and Pro, paying that $200 a month or $20 a month. But that's not the majority of users. The majority of users are using the free version. So where would they really get that that valuation? Where would they use that? Will they get it through enterprise? Will they get it through being the best model in the world and having that frontier model being used in research and driving innovation? There are many ways this could go. So it's very hard for us at this early stage to make a decision on where their revenue will come from. But I think from a customer perspective, they are likely to have a monopoly position in the next few years, over the next few years. So finally concluding, who are the likely winners? And this is a complete guess, and I'm likely to be very wrong, but this is why I kind of think at the moment, which is on hardware, I think Nvidia is the clear winner and is really a show me story for the other Mag 7 companies on who will challenge Nvidia's crown. But at the moment, they are the undisputed leader and the monopoly in the AI arms race. In terms of customer LLMs, I think OpenAI, XAI, Gemini, and Meta all have significant advantages, and I think any of them have a really good shot at winning this race. So they all have their own proprietary data sources and distribution. So I think XAI, Gemini, and Meta have proprietary data. OpenAI has the customer lock-in and loyalty from the first mover advantage. And then distribution, again, we've talked about XAI having distribution through Twitter and potentially also Tesla. Gemini having much larger distribution with Google Suite and Google Search and YouTube, and then Meta having even more than that potentially with Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp. I think the question to think about is, though, on customer LLMs might become commoditized or specialized. So customers will like the convenience, right? So they may use a variety of LLMs. They may use Meta AI in Meta apps because it's native to the app. They may use Gemini and G Suite YouTube. They may use XAI or Grok on X, but they might go to OpenAI for whenever they have a question for search or things like that, or maybe for a conversation because that's their chat, that's their LLM of choice, for example. So, in my view, it will be again it could be a winner takes all or winner take most, with OpenAI taking the lion's share, or it could be that they have lock-in within their different networks, and you kind of use a variety of LLMs in different contexts on different apps and platforms. And then for physical AI, I really think my bet would be on Tesla/XAI on the humanoids and autonomous vehicles space. But I've also added Nvidia here because they are really partnering with all the humanoid companies really and all the car manufacturers to be the supplier that enables both humanoids and autonomous vehicles. So again, they are the hardware winner at the moment, and they are setting themselves up for many years of success in the area. So I think that's kind of a overview of the current AI race and the Mag 7 plus OpenAI. Obviously, there may be other AI first companies that will emerge. People might say Palantir as well, I don't really understand Palantir that much, to be honest. Who actually does? But yeah, I hope that was interesting for anyone who's watching. Yeah, I guess like and subscribe. But yeah, see you next time.